So what we're finding is that the welfare changes that came in April 2013 are just constantly having an impact on people, time and time again, in terms of benefit delays, benefit sanctions, the under-occupancy rule. So there's still 6,000 people affected by the under-occupancy rule, which is where when you have a spare bedroom and you're on social housing, you are basically, you have to pay extra money, which takes money out of your own budget, which means you may be more likely to be in food poverty. But generally speaking, welfare changes and the fact that living costs have increased, they increased at about the end of 2014, then they started to plateau, but they've not gone down significantly, and it's just the general drain of what's going on has caused a general gradual increase in food poverty in the city.
Economy didn't improve the living standard of impoverished region in Leeds.
So Leeds is one of the most unequal cities in the country, and it basically usually means that if you're educated like me, probably like you, and you can almost fit into the society, fit into the kind of ways of getting employment and getting good education around the service sector or around the public sector, and get work, then you're going to do quite well for yourself. But if you're not, and if you have tragically grown up in quite a deprived area, it can be really, really challenging, and you don't often benefit from the economic prosperity that Leeds has seen over the last kind of 20 years. Obviously, we had a real challenge around the financial crash, but things have slowly picked up. We're not probably back to the growth levels we were at in 2005, 2006. But even as things pick up, it doesn't mean it benefits everyone when you live in a city that's so unequal and tends to benefit certain people, where it doesn't always benefit everyone.
Do you think the situation is getting worse?
Yeah, I'd say gradually, and I'm always cautious. So, with a 25% increase, Leeds was one of the first, one of the last cities really to pick up on food bank provision, as far as I can tell. It's done some fantastic work in other areas, but it was a little bit later than other cities, say like Sheffield or Manchester, and that could have affected the figures somewhat, a little bit. But there is definitely an increase in food poverty. In the number of individuals being referred to food banks and food parcel providers has definitely increased. It's not maybe as bad as it could have been, because the living costs and the food prices have plateaued, but the welfare changes that came in April 2013 are meaning that it's just gradually getting bit by bit harder and harder. I was talking to someone the other day who had been sanctioned from their benefits, and they were 6 months pregnant, and that is incredibly challenging, and there was real concerns for how the baby was going to do because the mother was losing weight, and stories like that make you want to cry, don't they? This person themselves had to go and access food from a food parcel provider, and I think they've been okay, but it is tremendously challenging in terms of how people can survive. I think it is gradually getting worse, yes.
I know the first official meeting of Leeds Food Aid Network took place in 2014. What kind of organization is the Leeds Food Aid Network?
So it's not an organisation, it's a network of different organisations, initiatives, groups, churches, and yeah, it's about bringing people together to be more strategic in how we tackle food poverty. It's got 4 key areas. The first is how can we effectively signpost people to food providers in the city when they're in need of food. So we have the homeless and food aid documents, 4-sided document that we use to do that. Timetables, lots of different provision. We've also got one specific for the Trussell Trust and a new one for migrants, particularly in East Leeds. Secondly, we look at food distribution, so how can we distribute food to where it's needed, and part of that is working with Fair Share Yorkshire, who take a lot of food from the food industry and distribute it out to different places. So for example, they work with Kellogg's to get cornflakes and Rice Krispies, allocate that out to schools. We also look at longer term needs, how can we deal with the root causes of food poverty, so we're trying to encourage wherever possible on location support, so you can get welfare advisors, debt advisors at food providers, so they can give that support there and then when people attend, and then general communication, a bit like this. You know, how can we communicate what's going on to the wider city? They're the 4 key areas of the Leeds Food Aid Network. Really, we meet 4 times a year, and the event we've got on Wednesday is part of this setup. So, yeah.
And the final question is, could you introduce the homeless mapping document?
Yeah, so as I just said, the homeless and food aid document, which is what we call it now, has a number of different services. If I'd have brought one along, it might have helped. But it's got services that do 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, like York Street Health Practice, St George's Crypt, and they kind of overlap with homelessness fairly strongly. It's then got lots of different food parcel provision and food bank provision. So it's got the Trussell Trust reference on there, it's got Salvation Army, St Vincent's. And then the last 2 sides have Monday right through to Sunday in terms of the different places you can drop into to access a meal or access some sandwiches. So lots of different stuff going on there, ranging from St JJ's on a Friday, Homeless Leeds Support Group on a Wednesday, and In Touch Foundation on a Tuesday. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your help.